What's going on, everyone? It's Mike back again, and this is, look, it's just a quick video just off the sort of breaking news that it looks like 777 Group will be buying Everton for around 600 million. What does this mean? Well, it gives us new leadership, gives us new direction, new ideology at the top, new board members for obvious reasons. There's plenty of positives. There's also some negatives around some of the clubs that they've owned and they've bought into, and some of the decisions that have been made at those clubs. But the one thing I would say about Everton is we will probably be one of, if not the crown jewel in their allotted group of clubs. We're probably the biggest, and I think as a result of that, I think they'll be really gentle with Everton in terms of making massive decisions that might annoy fans. And I think they'll also be in a position where they've almost got to appease us. There's a lot of rubbish around Everton. There's a lot of turmoil, certainly around financial fair play. We've heard today that 6 clubs have wanted to have a decision pushed for the start of this season. Everton have managed to wrap this up in a legal battle, similar to what Man City have, which could take up to 18 to 24 months because it's so complex. So that's not going to happen. So we're not going to be going down this season for a points deduction. It may not happen the season after. But something may be on the horizon. So Everton need to be in a position where they can cope with that issue. Now, that issue could be a transfer ban. That issue could be points deduction. That issue could be nothing. But Everton need to be in a position where they can cope with it. And I think the big thing for me, and the most important thing for me, is we've been run so badly under the last 7 years. I mean, if you look at a team, and I saw a few tweets about it today, you've got John Stones and Romelu Lukaku, both playing in a Champions League final. You've got one of the best players in the world passing to Brazil's number 9, who scores, who plays for Everton at the time. You've got some real established history in the players that have been signed at Everton over the last few years, but they're not here anymore. So I think that needs to be addressed as well. We need to make this club attractive again to players. And I think the only way of doing that is to sort out the turmoil at the top of the club. This club is ran horrendously, and we all know that. So I think it's really important that we address that. And new leadership means that. Now, I'm not going to say that, I wish it wasn't some, billionaire, gazillionaire owners like Newcastle have got, on Man City have got, Chelsea have got, Man United are going to have. Of course I wish it was one of those groups, but it's not. But what this group does have is a pool of investors who are prepared to throw money around and make the club better. Their end game is to make this club sustainable. It's got a new stadium on the horizon in the next 18 months. They want to make this an investment that's worthwhile, that they can promote, make bigger, and probably sell on in 5-10 years. And I'm fine with that. We need to start being the model where we bring in young players, and if they do leave the club, we make hefty profits on them instead of signing 28, 29-year-olds on 3-4 year deals and they walk out the club. We're seeing it with Isaac Price, a young, talented individual's about to sign, well, if he hasn't already, sign a 4-year deal with Standard Liège, because he's been almost promised to play first-team football. Whereas at Everton, they're not getting these chances. So there needs to be a better structure for these youngsters coming through. So there's so much at Everton that needs doing and changing. And, you also don't know what this 777 group are going to be like with Dyche. Are they going to be happy with the style of football? Do they want that brand of football? Do they want the consistency? Or do they want to go for a bold statement manager? There's plenty of them around. There's lots of big managers available. It wouldn't surprise me if Carlo Ancelotti's looking for a job at the end of the season. He's not in the Champions League final. He's not going to win the league. And at Real Madrid, that is essentially, that's failure. it wouldn't surprise me if Carlo's available again. And couldn't you imagine that? A bit of a almost a remake of the James Rodriguez and Carlo Ancelotti story in the summer. How weird would that be? And I'm not sitting there saying I want Sean Dyche sacked, by the way. I'm just, I'm trying to think from what investors in Everton may want. I also think it's really difficult because there's lots of rumours around this 777 group and about how much they're worth, and I don't read into things like that. Moshiri was worth 1.8 billion. Yeah, it was being funded by 13 billion in Usmanov. These things have money people behind them. These people know what they're doing. They have had relegations on their list. I think Hertha Berlin, I think they were relegated for the first time in a long time under their stewardship. If I'm not mistaken, or they may have, I can't remember, but there's definitely been a couple of clubs that have got relegated whilst being owned by 777, and I think, that is going to be the worry. There'll be Everton fans that are worried about it, but for me personally, I want Moshiri out of the club. I want the board changed, and I know you're rolling a dice into the unknown, but I'd rather the unknown than know what we know already. And I know that at the minute this is horrendous. How the hell have I rolled that off the tongue really well? That's impressive. So I think that's really key as well, personally. And I also look at, I just want change in the boardroom. I want people who know how to run a business to run our football club. But I also want football people to be trusted in doing the job that they're doing. And at the minute, we don't actually have either. We've got a board made up of ex-players that are very loyal to a certain chairman. I'm not 100% agreeable to that. We've got a chairman that's deluded. We've got a CEO that I don't really know the extent of a football experience, but it is what it is. And we've got Moshiri, who meddles far too much. We've got a director of football that, Neil's ended up proving me wrong, but Melpay hasn't. Absolutely shocking signing. It was absolutely ludicrous. And no matter what happens, if Everton go down, which I don't think we will at this point, but if we do, this 777 group have got to be committed to rebuild this football team. Because there'll be a lot of transactions. I think there'll be a fair few transactions anyway. I think Everton are going to seriously try and balance the books. There'll be a lot of wages leaving this summer as well. In some of the bigger names, Decore and Mina, I think they're two that could be walking out the door. On top of any potential sales of Anana and potentially Pickford and Calvert-Lewin, you just don't know. So this team needs a rebuild, but it doesn't need a rebuild into the Burnley model, because whether people agree with this or not, Everton probably have a little bit more stature than Burnley, and they're expected probably to be slightly higher in the standings than what Burnley would be. That's not a dig at Burnley, by the way. It's just Everton sort of having the stature that we do. I'm not saying we're a massive club anymore by any stretch, but you probably would see Everton as a top 10 club, and they should be consistently. Whereas you probably don't see Burnley as that. So I think Everton have got to get back to there. And I'm just hoping that this opportunity means that we can. I'm fed up of people for the Daily Mail and Telegraph, digging Everton out and making articles that just make us sound like we're the worst thing since, anything. Because we're not. These fans are fantastic. We're fantastic, and we'll support this team home and away. And we've got some history. But what's really important, in my opinion, is that change is coming and does come, and hopefully we go in the right direction. But is it a gamble? Absolutely. But is it a gamble that I personally am prepared to accept? Absolutely. Guys, I'm leaving it there. Thank you for the late upload. Enjoy it. Make sure you like and subscribe the video, and I will see you tomorrow for the match preview. Peace.